that you cannot be wrong, that your basic sense perceptions are reliable. As a skeptic, you cannot know in such a way that you cannot be wrong that there is an underlying uniformity of nature. Therefore, anything a skeptic says about reality are just simply beliefs and nothing more.
And you have not done anything to show that you are in a different position than we.
Well, I told you.
Dawkins, that's a claim. Can you demonstrate the difference? Okay.
Okay, without the Christian God and his revelation about the nature of reality, then without that, if you reject that, then you are without the means to demonstrate that anything is actually the case. Okay? It's called an argument, Hex, called due to the impossibility of the contrary. Now,
I'm sorry.
look, okay, let me explain something to you. In the Christian worldview,
that you have this information.
Well, the only way that it can ultimately be demonstrated is by the true and living God. If you reject that, then there is no means by which anything. You see, here is the mistake that you are making.
I have not rejected the true and living God.
Hex, can you explain to me?
Can you demonstrate your claim, Dawkins?
That's right. I demonstrate it by demonstrating that you in your worldview recognize that certain things are the case.
Dawkins,
okay. When you say I'm just making, when you say I'm just making a claim, what you are therefore saying is this: is that the God of the Bible has it's given revelation about how he has designed and created the Word. So when you say it's just, okay, Hex, I'm trying to respond to you. You're interrupting me. I'm trying to respond to you. When you say to me,
all right,
Hex,
hold on,
wait.
Hold on, real quick. I got my.
Who muted Antonio?
All right, I got my control in here, and nobody's going to interrupt anyone here from now on while I got my control in this room. So.
Okay. The point is this, Hex, all right? When you say to me that my statement that the true and living God that created the universe has revealed himself in a number of ways, and especially in and through the Bible, when you respond and you say to me, that's just a claim, you are offering the proposition that what I'm saying is false. It's just an empty claim. It's nothing more. But you're not in a position to demonstrate that it is. And in fact, from your worldview, if you reject the Christian worldview, tell me something that you can demonstrate is the case in such a way that you cannot be wrong. Go ahead, Hex.
Okay, I have not said I've rejected the Christian worldview. I'm still asking for you to demonstrate your claims. You're making claims that you haven't demonstrated, so please demonstrate.
No, I've demonstrated because the Christian God has revealed himself in history in and through the Bible, in and through Jesus.
Well, demonstrate that. How do you mean?
I can't demonstrate it. You need to know.
Wait, you can't demonstrate it.
Here's the mistake in your reasoning.
Hello, you have that. How do you make
it? I can't demonstrate it. You need to know.
Wait, you can't demonstrate it.
Here's the mistake in your.
All I ask is you to demonstrate your claims. You have been yabbing along for hours now, just asking us to sort of make foundational demonstrations of our claim. Now demonstrate your claim.
Okay. The only way that anything is demonstrable, that something is the case in reality, would be if the Christian God exists. If you reject that, then nothing can be demonstrated. Now, I'm going to ask you, does it logically and necessarily follow, if the Christian God exists, certain things can be known to be demonstrably true?
Look,
does that logically and necessarily follow if the Christian God exists, Hex?
Well, I'm still waiting for you to demonstrate your claim.
I'm attempting to do so.
No.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait, Hex. He was explaining his position.
I'm explaining it to you. I'm trying to point out to you your faulty reasoning. You want to believe that something or
You don't know what
anything.
I
Okay,
believe.
can I finish? I am
You
attempting
don't
to
know
respond
what
to you.
I said no interruptions.
Okay, I'm pointing out your faulty reasoning when you demand that I demonstrate something, but you're asking that I demonstrate something apart from the Christian God's revelation. Now, the mistake that you're making is that something could be demonstrated to be the case without the Christian God's revelation. Now, is it your assumption that something can be demonstrated to be the case in reality in such a way that you cannot be wrong without the revelation of the Christian God?
I don't know, but I want you to demonstrate the revelation of the Christian
It
God.
can
You
only
say
be
that you have
demonstrated
that
by
as
God.
a
Okay,
No. Let Hexapod finish. No interruptions.
Look, Dawkins, you are saying all the time that you have the revelation of the Christian God as your foundation. So now demonstrate the revelation of the Christian God.
okay, I will do it by this means. By what means is something demonstrable?
You're asking,
I mean,
you're answering the
that's
question
what
with the
that-
question?
No, I'm trying to ascertain, Hannah, I'm trying to ascertain what his criterion for something being demonstrable is.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay?
he's-
So he says to me, demonstrate that the Christian God is true. Does he mean that the Christian God can be demonstrated independent of his own existence?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
That-
Please,
that-
see, listen,
making sense.
what he doesn't understand is underlying his statement, because he does not accept initially, this is not his starting point, that the Christian God exists and has revealed himself in revelation in various forms, including the Bible. Since he does not accept that, he's saying, I want you to demonstrate that to me independently of me believing that. So this means
Science.
that he
So
believes
you're trying
that
to put
something
my-
can be demonstrated to be the case without a prior acceptance that the Christian God exists. So what that means is, how can anything be demonstrated apart from the revelation of the Christian God?
Okay, Antonio, can you hit C. Brown? He's got a background noise going on.
Sorry. You see, Hex, you want to believe that there are certain things that are demonstrable without the Christian God existing.
I have not made that claim.
Okay, good.
Why are you
Is anything demonstrable in your worldview, Hex?
Look, if you have a claim that you can demonstrate,
I'm demonstrating it right now by asking you
do
this
it.
question.
Wait, hold on. He's taking you through the steps to demonstrate his claim. He's
That's
actually-
right. I'm demonstrating it to you by asking you these questions. That the
No.
only way anything is demonstrable is through the creative and sovereign revelation of the Christian God. If that is not accepted, let me give you an example. For example, let's take the laws of logic. You accept the laws of logic without them being proven. Isn't that correct, Hex?
I accept the laws of logic.
Okay, good. You accept the laws of logic. Now,
Yes.
can you demonstrate that it is the case that the laws of logic are universal?
No.
Okay, good. But if you can't demonstrate it, then why do you believe in it?
Well, can you do it?
Okay. Well, you see, you're not responding to the question.
Look,
The
now you're
point
trying
the
to
point
do
is
this.
this: you have a different criterion for the God of creation
How
than
do
you
you know?
do other things that you believe in. For example, it is not demonstrable that the laws of logic are absolute and universal, but you nonetheless embrace them.
Darwin, can I ask a quick question? I'm a little bit confused right now. Are you
Go ahead.
arguing against his properly basic belief? Is that what you're insinuating?
It doesn't matter whether you call them properly basic or not. What I am simply saying is he wants the God of the Bible, who has revealed himself in certain ways, including the Bible, he wants the God of the Bible to be demonstrable other than the revelation of God. Okay? And he says, well, I don't accept that. I don't accept the Bible as a revelation of God. I want something independent. What he wants is an independent justification than the Bible itself. Right?
I'm not saying that. You are making a claim, and I'm asking you to demonstrate its validity.
Okay, good. How? Okay, how? When you ask me to demonstrate the Christian God, what is your criterion that would demonstrate anything is the case, including the Christian God existing? What would that be?
And I'm saying, argue your case and let us judge.
You asked
if
me
you
to demonstrate
Stop. Here's what he's doing. He's asking you, okay, if you're gonna ask Hexapod, he's saying, if you're gonna ask him to demonstrate his case, he's asking, what is your basis for, even justifying your claim of him demonstrating his case?
Well, I will know when I hear it, and we can all judge whether he has
good. Well, then what you have now done is, when you said you will know when you hear it, you have now made your reason the final authority.
No.
Okay. Yes.
Well, look.
Do you understand that in order to demonstrate that anything is the case in reality, there has to be a final authority. Do you understand that?
This is so strange.
I am asking. You are making a
claim. Hannah, I understand it's a bit strange
of your claim.
But here's the point. In order, Hannah, if I ask you, let me illustrate for you. Hannah, if I asked you for the population of Topeka, okay, what would you do?
Oh, great.
Gather data.
Okay, good. By what means would you demonstrate the population of Topeka, Kansas?
Various studies, independent sources outside of my own, mathematics that I would display.
Okay, all right. So you're talking about, okay, all right. And this all pertains to demonstrating the Christian God. You would demonstrate the population based upon two things. One would be your observation, and two, your cognitive reasoning faculties, right? Right?
Okay,
Hana, he's dodging.
No, I understand. I'm trying to get him to get to the point.
Okay,
yes.
Now, if you say, oh, no, but you see, what I would do is I would go to the Census Bureau, and I would verify my sense perception and my reasoning faculties, and I would compare that with the figures at the Census Bureau as to the population of Topeka, Kansas, in order to demonstrate it. But then I say, well, why is the Census Bureau the final authority? Okay, when something is deemed to be demonstrated to be the case, there has to be a stopping point, because if there's not, then what you're going to have is what is called an infinite regress of justification.
Right, but you're arguing Hexapod's point to the step right before you can get to the infinite regress.
No, if the justification for the Christian God is this, is that without him, nothing can be demonstrated.
That's an appeal to consequences, Dawkins. That is
no,
what the
no, it's not. No, it's not an appeal to consequences. Here's what it appeals to. It logically and necessarily follows that if the Christian God exists, therefore everything that does exist independent of God is contingent upon him, and that includes all reason and knowledge or certitude. Okay. So God himself, so wait a minute. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Okay? Now, either you recognize that the Christian God would be the final authority, or you're going to have to appeal to something other than the Christian God in order to be your final standard of what is the case. Okay? So when Hexapod says to me, demonstrate to me the case that the Christian God exists, what he's maintaining in his mind is, I'm not convinced, I'm not persuaded that the Christian God exists, but he nonetheless believes that some things are demonstrable if the Christian God does not exist. Do you see the point? Now,
hold on. Wait. This guy Natt want to jump in.
So Hex, can something? One final question, Hex. Can something be demonstrated to be the case in reality without the existence of the Christian God?
I mean, you're trying to push this onto me. You are making claims, and I want you to support them.
No, you.
No, wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. No, he's not.
Antonio, let me respond. Antonio, let me respond. When you ask me,
With the moderator.
Hex, when you ask me, demonstrate the Christian God, that is like saying to me, can you prove the Christian God, right? Or that's like saying to me, can you give me evidence for the Christian God? These are parallel types of statements. Now, that question that you have put to me presupposes from your worldview that demonstrating evidence and proving things are possible. Now, in your worldview, when you ask me that question, can something be demonstrated?
Look, we're not talking about my worldview. You are making
Your
a
question
claim.
comes from your worldview.
Hold on. Wait.
Can you reformulate? Can Dawkins just formulate his claim? Okay.
Hold on. Let me put it this way.
Yes, Antonio.
Let me put it this way. Okay. If you have, everybody has a final authority on something. Darwin's deity's final authority would be God, and your final authority would be something else. So he's merely asking, what is your basis for the things you are asking? That's it.
Well, he is claiming to have he is claiming to sort of have the basis for everything, the final authority. He claims, he's making a claim about his own epistemological position, and I am asking him to verify this claim.
Okay, that's right. So you are assuming your question is proceeding from your worldview. You are assuming that verification is possible with God and without God, right?
Wow.
I don't know if you look.
Okay,
you
I'm going to ask. Okay,
you have a claim of
Hey, listen.
some kind of knowledge or epistemological position.
when you ask me to verify the Christian God, is it not your presupposition inherent in that question? Hold on a second. You asked me a question. You said demonstrate and verify the Christian God. That question presupposes the possibility of verification with or without the Christian God. Is that correct?
I don't know, but I want you to just
then if you don't know,
formulate your claim. That's how it.
Hold on.
Can you demonstrate that your claim?
See, there's one right over his head.
Look.
If you don't know,
wait, hold on.
Demonstrate.
He can't answer it. You know, somebody else, Natt, want to speak. He can't answer that question.
No, he can't.
I mean, I know, but it's too much ducking and dodging. He don't really want to do it. You know, I think that we just need to focus on other people that's in the room too, though.
I have not made the claim. It's Dawkins. You should direct yourself to.
That's right. That's right. And I'm saying to you that the only means by which anything is demonstrable is a world that is the product of the Christian God.
Correct. That is a claim. That is now on record.
Well,
now, can you?
Okay. Good. That's my thing. Okay, good. Now, when you say to me, "Can you demonstrate that?" Is it your position? I'm going to ask you a question about your request of me. Is your question presupposing that verification is possible with and without the Christian God?
No, it's not.
Okay, is it your presupposition that something? Yes, you are. Yes, it is. When you ask me a question.
No. Wait. All positions have some sort of presupposition to them.
When you ask a question to verify something, you are assuming the possibility of verification.
Antonio, do you have a start? Let's ask somebody else. Antonio, what are your thoughts?
Hold on, Hexy. Hold on.
He's dodging and he's
evasive. You're being evasive. The problem is you're being evasive. And what's happening? Hold on. What's happening is he's have to keep asking the same question again because you're being evasive.
No.
Listen, let's move on.
Okay.
Somebody else
No, this is confusing. Listen, let me clarify it. Let me clarify because this is confusing for some people in the room. Okay. The point is this: when you start at the Christian worldview, we start with Genesis 1:1, where it says, "In the beginning, God created the
Can
heavens
you
and the earth.
demonstrate that?
And what that's okay, we'll get to that momentarily.
Okay, but can you
What
demonstrate?
No
simply
interruption.
okay, would you not? Would you?
But no,
Okay, please. I'll try to be as brief as possible.
I want to ask
try
you
to be as brief as
Stop.
possible.
I said, look, man, hold on, wait.
I'm trying to explain this issue to some of the other people in the room where this seems to be a little bit confusing. Right?
But will there be a demonstration
Okay,
waiting?
you know what? You
can't let him finish.
You are being really obnoxious.
I didn't allow,
in the Christian world.
I didn't allow him to interrupt you, Hexapod. Do not interrupt him.
Okay, the Christian worldview is this: is that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. What this simply means is everything that exists that is not God is completely and entirely contingent upon God. All right? Now, that is not a complicated thing to understand from the Christian worldview. Now, that means then that all knowledge and reason, verification, demonstration, proving anything about the nature of reality would be contingent upon God. Now, I take the position that without the Christian God, no knowledge, meaning to know things in such a way that we cannot be wrong, no certainty, nothing demonstrable or verifiable is even possible without the Christian God. It is similar to the idea, deny that the laws of logic are universal and you cannot function, but you cannot prove the laws of logic. So what I'm simply saying to this is, nobody could disagree in here that if the Christian God exists, then the only way that anything could be proven is by virtue of the Christian God and his enablement. Deny the Christian God who exists, then you're going to be in a position where you're blind, deaf, and dumb, where you cannot demonstrate anything. No, you can't demonstrate zip. So when Hex says to me, can you demonstrate the Christian God? He's saying, can you demonstrate that the Christian God exists prior to him embracing the fact that he exists? All right? So what he is assuming is that verification and demonstrability is possible apart from the Christian God. Okay? This is his position. Otherwise, he wouldn't be asking the question. He cannot deny that if the Christian God exists, verification is only possible by virtue of the Christian God, because it logically and necessarily follows from that worldview. But if you do not embrace that, and you maintain a skeptical worldview saying, well, I don't believe in the Christian God, then how is verification even possible? So he is presuming, but by virtue of him asking the question, verify to me the Christian God, he is admitting, I do not embrace that the Christian God exists yet. So prove to me that he does exist. So he is assuming that verification is possible, independent, and prior to the acceptance that the Christian God created this world. So my point is this, is to you, Hex. Your underlying presupposition that verification is possible, independent of or prior to accepting the Christian God, tell me how that is possible.
He can't answer it, but Natt will. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Natt, it's your turn.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. So, I mean, there's one big problem I see with this, though. Your argument, Dawkins, is that your final judge, you have chosen that to be the Christian God, but why have you chosen it to be the Christian God? Because in your argument, you only need that final judge. So why wouldn't it be Allah? Why wouldn't it be Zeus? Why wouldn't it be any other God? What got you to the Christian God?
Excellent. Good question. Now, before I respond, I'd like to know what your worldview is.
Oh, that doesn't matter. You're gonna put a bunch of biases on me depending on my worldview.
No, hide. You can't hide.
No, that's being respectful. He doesn't have to answer if he doesn't want to.
No, he doesn't.
Come on now.
No, he doesn't.
No, that's being respectful.
No,
I'm fine with American.
That's not being disrespectful at all. That's not being
All right,
disrespectful.
hold on a second.
You shouldn't be forced
let me
to.
agree. Let me agree.
Okay, that's fine. It's fine. Go ahead.
All right, hold on. Let me agree with Hana. He doesn't have to answer that question.
Well,
But here's the reason. Here's the reason why I asked the question. It is not to put the monkey on your back, because you have raised a very good question. Why not Allah? Why not some other deity? Now, the reason why I asked the question is because your questions that come out of your mouth in response to what I'm saying about the nature of reality, your questions are a byproduct of your worldview. And in order to answer you properly, I have to know what your frame of reference is when you ask these questions.
Not necessarily. He could always.
In order to cogently.
You do. You do have to know somebody's frame of reference.
Look, if he says to me.
I kind of disagree with that.
Okay, look. When
really
Natt says to me, well, why not the other God? You see, Natt would have to hold to some sort of worldview. Otherwise, his question would not be meaningful to me.
But you could explain your position without anybody else being in the room.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Hold on a sec. Look here. If we're talking about a term of anything in discussion, right? And then they'd be like, well, define what you mean by why you say that. Define your terms. That means you have to know someone's frame of reference. There's nothing wrong with knowing somebody's frame of reference.
When I go into the lion's
This is entirely different. No, this is entirely
when I
different.
go
No, it
into
isn't. Wait, hold on. No, it's not entirely different. The point is, hold on, let me explain why it's not entirely different. The reason why it's not entirely different is because when you're trying to know somebody's frame of reference, it applies to whether you define in terms or whether certain questions are asked. I mean, otherwise you'll get into nonsense like, what kind of murderer are you? You're assuming a particular frame of reference when you ask that question. It's a fallacy.
You do not have to be.
Let me just briefly answer Natt. Okay.
Yeah, let's move forward.
The reason why it's not Allah is because Allah contradicts himself. All right. Allah himself in the Quran actually lies to people and encourages people to lie. All right.
Okay. Why not Zeus then?
Wait a second.
Okay. Because you see, all right, here's why. The reason why it can't be Zeus is because the very reason why the Christian God is the necessary precondition for everything. Zeus would be a finite contingent entity. And by definition, when you propose Zeus, Zeus is a contingent being. Zeus, therefore, could not be the necessary precondition for intelligibility for all of reality.
Wow.
Okay?
So what if I have a different God that is pretty much the same as the Christian God?
Okay.
The point is that I can go on and there's a million other gods. The point I'm trying to make
and here's the problem with your view.
You have gone to the Christian God specifically.
Wait.
Can I say something?
No,
All right. All right, let Natt finish, and then you can go see.
Okay.
Let Natt finish.
That's fine.
The point I'm trying to make is that you have gone to the Christian God specifically. Now, of course, I know you know some things about Allah and some things about Zeus, but I guarantee you there are other gods out there that are very similar to the Christian God that you may not be able to make that argument for, that are not like believed to be a real physical thing, but more of a, I don't know, maybe I don't want to use the word supernatural, but supernatural kind of like sort of deal. Anyways, the point I'm trying to make is why the Christian God specifically. I mean, you can go, I guess you can refute all the gods. There's a lot of gods to refute. But rather, instead of just refuting all those gods, I want you to say why specifically the Christian God.
Okay, I want to say something real quickly, because
Yeah, go ahead, man. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, you know, the thing is God took credit for it. Okay, God took credit for this universe. Not only that, you have to have a God that stands outside of space and time. You can't have a God that has stringent boundaries. It has to be outside of that. Really, saying Zeus, when you say stuff like why not Zeus, it's kind of making it sound like you're starting your argument from a very weak position.
Right.
But then
that's a horrible. Hold on. That's a horrible. Zeus is a horrible example.
Right.
We need a God. We need a powerful God that is not conformed to the physical laws. That's just outside of the physical laws.
There are other gods, like
one?
the Mazda might be an example. He's a Zoroastrian god. But what about even the Christian God without the Jesus part? So like the Jewish.
Okay. Well, Nat, I'm just curious. Are you a theist, atheist, agnostic? What's your worldview?
I don't know if I want to disclose it at this point because here I'm going to tell you my issue.
It's relevant. It is directly.
Well, hold on.
I can explain.
I'm not going to attack your worldview, but your questions are derivative of your worldview. If you don't have a basic worldview, then there's really no point in responding to your questions, because why would they make sense from your point of view if you don't have a worldview? For example, when you ask me questions, are you presuming that there are the laws of logic?
I guess, but the point I'm trying to make with not disclosing it is, I mean, I'd be willing to be attacked on anything I believe. We're gonna, through our conversation, you're gonna find out what I believe, and that's what matters. That's what's relevant to the conversation.
What you're doing classically is what skeptics
labeled.
What you're doing classically, what skeptics do, is when they are confronted with the argument, which is called to the impossibility of the contrary from the Christian God, what some skeptics will do will say exactly what you have just done. Well, what about Zeus? What about you're not actually advocating that those are the case, right? What you're simply doing is we have the revelation of the Christian God, but you say, no, I don't accept that because it hasn't been demonstrated to me. Okay, and what you are doing is a very similar thing to what Hex did. Hex is saying to me, verify to me that the Christian God is true. Now, you would probably have to agree with me, and you could tell me if I'm correct or not, that if the Christian God exists as he is defined and described in the Bible, then things being provable or verifiable are only possible because we are contingent upon our Creator, right? That logically and necessarily follows if the Christian God exists, right? Nat, isn't that correct?
I mean...
Do you want me to repeat it? I'll repeat it.
No, I've heard the point lots.
Logically and
necessarily I need to run this through my mind, really.
The Christian God exists as he is defined and described, that everything that exists, including verification and proving things, are contingent only and completely upon the Creator of the universe, the Christian God. Okay? That logically and necessarily follows if he exists. But on the other hand, if you withhold that positive belief and you say, well, I'm not convinced, and I would like for you to verify and prove to me that the Christian God is true, apart from you accepting that he is the truth, then there is a means other than embracing that the Christian God exists.
Nadia, your turn.
Nadia, you muted.
Nadia, your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry. I think there was a little bit of trouble, though, where, well, in effect, I mean, you want to have this kind of, what is it, foundational belief, and go about saying that...
Nadia?
No audio, Nadia.
Nadia.
We can't hear you, Nadia. She might not be able to hear us either. Something might happen, or mic or camera or something.
All right. Well, we'll give her the floor as soon as she comes back. So Nat, there are two positions out there. Okay. One, the first position is that the only way anything can be demonstrated is by virtue of it being contingent on the Christian God. The other view which you're holding to is that some things can be demonstrable apart from the Christian God. Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking me the question, demonstrate to me the Christian God. If the Christian God was the only means by which something could be demonstrated, then you wouldn't be saying to me, demonstrate the Christian God, because the very existence of something being demonstrable indicates that the Christian God exists. So by virtue of that question, you are conceding that within your worldview that certain things are provable or demonstrable without the Christian God. Now,
why isn't it possible that he's
I have
playing
a
double
next.
advocate? Oh, sorry.
Sorry. So I will. Okay, I will say yes. If in order for something to be 100% completely true, you would have to say there was the God who created us, and He's the final judge, and only He knows. But also, you don't need 100% for everything, right? You can have something that's super duper likely, and it's pretty much true. It may not be 100% true, but it's really irrelevant.
No.
I have another point as well, though.
Stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay.
You made a mistake there. You said it's pretty much true.
Well,
there is no such thing as some.
Oh, wait. Let Natt finish real quick. Go ahead, man.
Natt can Nadia because
Okay.
she's back.
Yep, totally. So, I was just trying to show you the practicality of it. I'm saying that you don't have to have something to be 100% absolutely demonstrably true to be pretty much almost 100% sure that it is true.
Is what you just said true?
Is what I just said true? Yes.
Oh, okay. Is it 100% true?
No, it is 99.9% likely it's true.
Okay, why should I accept what you just said then?
Because I can show you examples.
Oh no, but you see, you don't know that it's true.
Can I make my other claim quickly?
No, but you just told me that you don't need 100% certainty, right?
You do not need 100% certainty for practical reasons. I'm not saying that there's nothing that you will ever know is 100% true unless you go with your argument. Yes, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, that statement. Wait a minute. Stop.
Wait. Let Natt finish, man. Hold on.
He just said you can't know anything for that's absolutely true. Is that true, Matt?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Nothing can be known 100% unless you go along with your argument.
Okay, so is that 100% true?
Is that 100% true? Well, you're the one claiming that's 100% true, actually.
No. You just made what is called in philosophy a self-refuting statement. You said, quote, I'm going to quote you.
Okay.
You said, we can never be 100% certain about anything.
Unless we go along with your argument, yes.
Okay, stop right there. Your point of view is that we can never know anything is absolutely true.
But you're forgetting the unless we go along with your argument part.
Okay, did you say that we can never know anything is absolutely true?
We can never know anything is absolutely true.
Okay, good.
Except for when a God is the final judge.
Okay. I'm not asking you about the Christian world view. Your view that you're advocating right now is that, quote, I'm going to quote you, and I just want it yes or no.
Okay.
Is it your position that we can never know anything that is absolutely true?
Yes.
Is that statement true?
I see what you're trying to get at there. I know what you're trying to get at. That statement is not 100% true. No.
Good. Then why? Then it might be wrong, right?
Yes, it is possible that it's wrong.
Okay, good. Then I can disregard that.
Okay. So whenever I have, let's say, a bacterial infection that has been treated with penicillin all the time, maybe it's wrong that this penicillin is not going to work this time. Does that mean I shouldn't just try it?
Okay, Matt, the problem with your worldview, not my worldview, because you see, from within my worldview, the uniformity of nature is revealed to us by God. But since you don't accept that, because you said to me, demonstrate the Christian God, and now you're talking about antibiotics, you are presupposing the uniformity of nature when you discuss antibiotics. Now,
while we wait for Nadia to get back,
until
she gets
so Matt, the problem is this. Matt, the problem is this. When you invoke the efficacy of antibiotics in your illustration, in your worldview, you are presupposing the foundation of the uniformity of nature. Is that correct?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay,
but
good. Okay, good. Now I'm going to show everyone here right and now how Natt is completely inconsistent with his principles. He said, "I want you to demonstrate to me that the Christian God is true. Otherwise, you're not going to, unless you can demonstrate that the Christian God is the case, then I'm not going to accept that." Now, you invoked antibiotics. That invocation necessarily presumes the uniformity of nature. Now, Natt, can you demonstrate the uniformity of nature?
Not 100%, just like anything else.
No, I didn't ask you. I didn't ask you about percentages.
Okay.
Can you demonstrate that it is the case in such a way that you can't be wrong, that the uniformity of nature is true?
Nope, because you can't demonstrate anything 100%.
Okay, good. Then there's no point in you speaking any further.
But I've already told you though that
Therefore,
this is for practical reasons.
Therefore, everything that you say
Mm-hmm.
is a percentage guess.
Yes, you're right.
Therefore, then there's no reason for me to listen to you any further.
No, there is, because if somebody's 99.9% likely to be true, you should probably listen to them. They might be wrong. There is a very small chance.
You know what? I don't want to be rude. You're very naive, and here's why you can't be 99% correct.
Darwin, wait,
Because
Nadia's
of your-
back. Wait, Darwin,
Let me just wrap this up. Okay, let me just give me 10 more seconds. The reason why you cannot make a 99% percentage evaluation is due to your finite powers of observation. Therefore, you cannot make those statistical pronouncements.
What if I use a machine that does not involve any of my
No,
senses?
because here's the problem.
Okay.
You need, in order for your probabilities to be feasible,
Okay.
the uniformity of nature would have to be demonstrated to be the case. If you cannot demonstrate that the uniformity of nature is true, therefore you cannot demonstrate the reliability of your mental faculties and your sense perception. If you cannot demonstrate that, then you cannot invoke an assessment of probabilities.
All right, it's Nadia's turn. She was supposed to go anyway.
I would comment that, yeah, if you're, I guess, denial of induction and such is going to, well, apply far more generally than you'd like it to, but still, more to the case that I was hoping to make.
I'm not denying induction.
Well, in effect, well, what
No.
I'm saying is that I think what you're saying basically does, but where I actually wanted to drive was the, well, I would deny foundationalism in general.
Okay. Well, I didn't deny induction. In my worldview, we don't deny.
Explain why you would deny and how you would manage to deny foundationalism. And do you also deny properly basic beliefs? And is that the same thing to you?
It's, I guess, an idea or concept within foundationalism and such. But, yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is there's a foundation of knowledge. There are some kinds of beliefs that don't depend on any other beliefs. And I think this arises from, arrives at a bit of a problem that, well, I mean, to the extent you might say that there's some kind of reliable external source, I mean, ultimately, you're not really making a very distinctive choice. I mean, although you've, I guess, picked this idea of a god, well, in effect, any sort of, you know, external source that basically blesses itself would suffice to remain internally consistent, and you know, ends up in effect begging the question in a way, and furthermore having kind of dependence on, well, other kinds of beliefs like the inferential mechanism itself being a kind of thing that has a belief held in it, and also, of course, the belief in the alignment of the various kinds of things with the inferential mechanism in order to provide the actual inference. And of course, you end up having the further regress of certification of whatever method of evaluation you use to evaluate that inferential method and so on, right? So, I mean, these kinds of independence of other beliefs and such you were hoping to propose are ending up with a couple of different problems, and I'd suggest that the well, something more akin to a virtue epistemology might hold up better against that, and not actually have the kinds of demands you propose. And furthermore, I mean, this kind of, I guess, procedure for carrying out any kind of inference is itself a kind of construction derived from somewhere. Now, you might say, okay, construction exists somewhere out there somehow. However, I think it derives in some aspects from experience. One sees that these kinds of things like modus ponens has, oh, well, the precondition and such ends up giving rise to, I guess, the consequence. What is the, well, affirming the consequence doesn't work. And that way you end up with, sorts of ideas as modus ponens and such, right? So, I mean, this kind of social construction, in terms of philosophy of mathematics, ends up, I guess, denying, what is it, more concretely a particular kind of contention within the transcendental argument, as opposed to its, or sorry, in addition to my earlier denial of its premise of foundationalism, right? So, and you want to go with induction. Miracles, as Hana so aptly pointed out, are, well, contradictions to the uniformity of nature. The uniformity of nature is precisely the denial of such irregularities in the matters of causation as miracles.
No, that's fallacious.
And induction, well, meaningless. Underlying law-like generalities are unavailable to attempt to discern.
Hey, wait, hold on one. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm about to leave. I just want to say one thing, Dawkins. Listen, the next time you at I added you on my Google Plus. Next time you at a time, I'm sorry, a hangout. I actually want to be there. I like the way you speak, and I want to, kind of, converse with you a little bit at another time. But everybody have a good time. I want to get out of here.
Okay.
I'm going to cut you off, Nadia. I just wanted to say that. Just let me know, Dawkins, because I like how you speak.
All right, see. Right now, the skeptics are screaming.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So Natt, with that from the Christian world. Okay.
Nadia didn't finish.
Well, she was speaking for quite a while.
That's okay. I got through two of the, I guess, sub-points of the transcendental argument, and I guess also the what was it, facialism premise, and the moral anti-realist premise. I don't need, or sorry, sub-argument or whatever it is. I don't need to go into. Go ahead.
Okay, so Natt, the reason why you should embrace that the Christian God exists is because without him, your world is in a state of absurdity. Now, when you hear that, you think that that's ridiculous. Now, if it is the case that the Christian God exists and everything is contingent upon him, therefore, you existing within that world, nothing could make sense without the Christian God, right? But your position is this: I will not accept the Christian God until and if the Christian God is demonstrated to be the case. But I'm going to demonstrate right now by the following question. I'm going to ask you the inconsistency that you hold in that position. Now, I'm going to ask you this question. Do you hold to the uniformity of nature, Matt?
So I know this is probably going to make you kind of mad. Not 100% no. I cannot say 100% that it is true, but I will say it is true, and by true, I define true as 99% likely.
You do hold to it. You do not. You
yes.
do not.
I will say that I hold to it. Yes.
You do hold to it. Now, if the uniformity of nature did not happen to be true, and all of the events that we observe around us were not the result of underlying laws of physics and chemistry, and hence the uniformity of nature, those events would be the result of just random coincidences. And there is no actual way to distinguish between events being the result of randomness versus regularity of nature. And here's what I mean by that. I was playing a board game with my son one day. We were playing backgammon, and I rolled double sixes 3 times in a row. Now, that is highly, highly improbable. Okay? Very, very improbable.
Yep, but still possible.
That's right. Now, there is no way, short of examining the device, so to speak, to distinguish between double sixes coming up 3 times as a result of some type of uniformity versus randomness. They visually appear the same. The same thing is true about all of the events that you experience. There is absolutely no way, humanly speaking, you or anybody else can distinguish the events that you see, that they are either purely random coincidences versus the events that you see are actually the product of an underlying uniformity. There's no way to distinguish between the two. They would have an identical appearance. But you and your worldview, embrace the uniformity of nature, because without embracing the uniformity of nature, your worldview would end in absurdity. You understand that before I finish?
Yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. Yep.
Okay, good. So there's no way for you and me, from your worldview, to distinguish between purely random events and events that are the product of an underlying uniformity.
That I sort of disagree with.
You can't disagree with that. You absolutely cannot. There is no way, short of being omniscient, for you to distinguish the events that you see being the product of purely random and coincidental events versus the events that are the product of an underlying uniformity. They look exactly the same. You do not have the means by which to investigate the difference between the two. Now, in the case of the dice, you would be able to. For example, we could weigh the dice, we could examine, and we could figure out whether those dice were fair dice or not. But when it comes to nature as a whole, you do not have the finite capability to examine all of these events like you would the dice. So the events that you see, all of the events that you see, cannot be distinguished in actuality between being the product of a uniformity versus purely random events. Do you understand that before I finish?
Yeah, can I say one thing quick before you go?
Sure, go ahead. Sure.
I don't. The dice, you just said that we could figure out if it was chance or not by weighing the dice, which relies upon observations.
Right, that's an illustration. It doesn't prove
that's not true.
No, it's an illustration, okay, that I'm giving you. The reason why is when I say we examine the dice, I'm talking about examining the dice from within my worldview, where we can know certain things, right?
Okay.
But the dice represent the dice coming up double sixes 3 times, right? Is an analogy to the events of the physical world.
But in your worldview, wouldn't it be that we aren't the ones knowing about the dice being chance or not, that it was the final judge?
I'm trying to get to a point. I'm trying to show you, and I am not trying to be mean or criticize you, but I'm trying to make you aware you have a completely inconsistent policy versus God versus your embrace of the uniformity of nature, right? Because if you didn't embrace the concept that the uniformity of nature was the underlying foundation of the events that you see, then the events that you see without embracing the uniformity of nature, then everything that would follow would be simply absurdity. You understand that?
Yep.
Okay, good. Now, you embrace the uniformity of nature, as all rational people do, and that's a good thing. But you see, you embrace it by virtue of the fact that the only alternative to that is a world of absurdity. Now, I am saying the same thing is true for the Christian God. If you do not embrace the Christian God, the alternative is a world of absurdity, because no other worldview can give you reliable information about the nature of reality. Now, when you embrace the uniformity of nature, can it be demonstrated, Natt, that the uniformity of nature is true?
Not 100%.
No. Forget this percentages stuff.
I'm giving you my definition of true.
Okay, no. Okay.
I would say truth
is not. No, listen, let me just clarify something. Truth is not a percentage.
Okay.
I know that it's a colloquialism that we use. Something in the laws of logic, something is either A or it's not A. It's not a percentage. These are colloquial descriptions that we have. All right. Now, either the uniformity of nature is
there is
true.
a percentage for things.
Okay. Yeah, but these are concepts.
Where is an electron going to be?
Oh, okay. These are conceptual frameworks. But when it comes to the laws of logic dealing with reality, something is either A or it's not A. Okay? There's
not in quantum mechanics. It is not.
Well. First of all, in quantum mechanics is still a field that we don't know a lot about.
Well, something like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle is
there are 12 different interpretations of quantum mechanics, so it's not a wise thing to start invoking quantum mechanics.
I will evoke simple things such as the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which is most definitely
fine.
true.
But the fact of the matter. Hold on a second.
Let me evoke something real quick here. Something cannot exist and not exist at the same time.
Exactly, the law of excluded middle.
Yeah. That's just. All
right.
That is true.
There is no. Wait. Something cannot exist and not exist at the same time. As an irrefutable logical conclusion, there is no percentage on that.
There's no percentages when it comes to truth.
There are
no, Natt. Let me
you're
disabuse
certain
you
about
of
that, Antonio?
Okay. Let me just.
Am I certain that? Am I certain that?
Okay.
Are you certain that something can exist and not exist at the same time?
Yeah,
Natt, here's the deal.
Okay.
Either you accept the laws of logic as the foundation for your worldview, or you don't. Okay? If you accept the laws of logic, and those are the A equals A cannot equal not A, and something is either A or it's not A. Okay? Those are the three laws of logic that form the foundation of a rational worldview. There's no percentages. When we start talking about when we talk about percentages, these are just conceptual frameworks that we're guessing about the nature of reality. Okay? But there is no percentage of truth. Okay? Now, you want God, the Christian God, to be demonstrated to you. And I simply say to you, the reason why you should get on your knees and embrace the Christian God is because without him, your worldview is absurd. There is no meaning, there is no truth, you cannot determine anything. Now, you probably disagree with that. Now, I will just simply say to you then, from within your worldview, you embrace the uniformity of nature in order for your worldview not to deteriorate into absolute absurdity. Can you demonstrate the uniformity of nature? And the answer is either yes, no, or I don't know.
No, not 100%. No. But
Look,
Okay.
can I say one thing?
So you
Can I take over
believe
after you?
so you believe in an underlying you believe in an underlying reality that governs reality, and without it, your world is absurdity, right? And that's why you embrace the uniformity of nature.
No, that's not why I embrace
Okay,
the
good.
uniformity.
Can you tell me then what one other reason why you would embrace the uniformity of nature other than the fact that without it, your world is absurd?
Because every single time all of the constants of nature have ever been measured, they have always been exactly the same. And that, I know that is not 100%. Yes.
Do you understand? Do you understand?
True. That is
Please don't laugh.
99%
That's
true.
not very kind.
Do you understand? Do you understand the constants of nature cannot be observed?
They can be measured.
No.
That's
You are
what observing is.
Okay,
You're using
Nat,
the
Nat,
definition
all
of
right.
observe as using your senses.
Nat, let me explain it to you. I'll explain it in terms of the speed of photons.
Wait,
Let's say,
are you finished making your point, Nat?
Oh, yeah, I'm finished making a point.
Okay,
There's one
Nat,
overarching
you're
point that I
confusing-
wanted to make, but I can wait until he's done.
Okay, you are confusing. What you are confusing is the observation of instances by which we infer a wider regularity. The constants of nature themselves cannot, by definition, be observed. It is impossible to observe the constants. You might be able to observe, I'll give you an analogy. Let's say the speed of a photon in a vacuum. And suppose you say that the speed of a photon in a vacuum is a constant. No, what you're doing is you are observing instances of photons, measuring a certain amount of those photons, and then you are extrapolating that all photons under the same conditions operate at the same speed. You are confusing the observation of instances with an observation of the whole of photons under the same conditions.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, but
therefore, that it is impossible to actually observe the constants of nature. The constants of nature are something that are inferred. Now, it is not possible for you to observe or verify the uniformity of nature. So since you cannot demonstrate or verify the uniformity of nature, tell me then why you believe in the uniformity of nature.
It is exactly like I said. I'll say this, in my worldview, I know you've been telling me this is the case, and it is the case, you can't know anything 100%. So it is very, very likely they are constant, but I can't tell you for 100% sure they are constant. It's just very likely because they have been measured.
You can't argue.
I know I haven't measured every single photon, but every photon that has been measured so far has been that, and there have been so many measured that it's very likely it's the case.
Moderator, please.
Yeah. Can we have something to say?
Wait, Darwin. Let Nat finish. Go ahead.
I finished with what I was going to say.
You can't argue for the percentages because you're doing so based upon induction, and your observation would only entail a very small amount of the whole. Therefore, you can't argue for the uniformity of nature based upon percentages or even observation. So, it is clear you cannot verify the uniformity of nature. Is that correct, Nat?
Yeah, not 100%. No.
No, Nat. Forget this percentage stuff. It cannot be determined that the uniformity of nature is the case, right?
It is very likely to be true, but not
100%. No.
That is how it works.
Here's why you're wrong. I explained it earlier. The events that you observe are indistinguishable from randomness, and you conceded to that earlier. Do you remember that?
No, I was trying. I wanted to bring up a point.
Okay, good. Then we'll go over that again. Do you understand?
Antonio,
Can I say one thing? Yeah. I just wanted to. I don't know if we're ever going to agree on this point. I mean, maybe we will in the future, but I think other people should be able to talk. I just wanted to make one more, big point. If I were to concede that I agree with everything you've said so far, sure, I'll go ahead and do that. Let's say that I do. Then we're going to get to this whole there's the final judge thing. Only he knows. And because of all that stuff, we know everything 100%. Yeah. You would explain that. But again, I asked you the question of the Christian God. Why the Christian God? Let's say I believe in a God who is not in the realm of space and time, who created all of us. Why is my view not the same exact, I don't know, likelihood of being true as yours? Why is mine not true and only the Christian God is true? If I have a God that's
an actual revelation? Is this an actual revelation you're talking about, or is this something you're pulling out of the figment of your imagination?
Right.
But wait, what's the difference?
Yeah, what's the difference?
You haven't demonstrated us a revelation. You just said you received.
First of all, how would God be verified independent of himself?
But that's not the question. I see where you're going, but that's not the question that we're asking.
You are assuming that verification is possible independent of the Christian God.
No, I'm not assuming. I'm assuming that I am entirely within the framework of your argument.
Okay, Matt, here's my point that I'm trying to make to you, and I'll just wrap this up, Nat. Okay, you embrace the uniformity of nature. And you only do so for one reason, is because otherwise your world is an absurd one. But you said earlier to me that you do so because in terms of percentages it's more likely.
Yep.
That is incorrect, and I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Right? The events that we observe are indistinguishable from randomness. They would appear yes, this is absolutely true. Right? The events that we witness are indistinguishable from purely random events as opposed to the events that we witness being the product of an underlying regularity of nature. And the reason why this cannot be disputed is because skeptics regularly argue that just because something is highly improbable, even to unbelievable astronomical improbabilities, if there's still a chance of certain sequences happening, then they can possibly happen.
Yes.
Therefore, you cannot appeal to the improbability of certain sequences not being the result of a uniformity of nature. So it is the case that the events that we observe are completely indistinguishable from randomness versus a uniformity of nature. So you cannot argue, it is literally fallacious for you to argue that the uniformity of nature is more probably true. You can't make that argument.
Darwin, can I address you now?
Okay, well, let's just wrap up. Give me 10 more seconds. Okay. The only reason why you embrace the uniformity of nature, something that you cannot verify, you cannot prove, you cannot have evidence for, is because your world would be absurd about it. So, but you are inconsistent in embracing the uniformity of nature when you cannot verify it, and yet you demand that the Christian God who has revealed himself in time and space be verified to you when you believe in certain things that cannot be verified.
Are you done?
I'm done.
Go ahead, Hana.
Okay, just I'm getting lost in what exactly you're trying to get at, because you're saying a lot in terms of revelation and all these, you can't understand uniformity of nature without God. Okay, that's I follow as much as that goes, but you're saying God has revealed it to you in such a way. How has he revealed it?
No, God has revealed himself to everyone.
How? How does he reveal it? What is he done?
Well, I don't know the precise mechanism that God uses in his revelation. God has revealed that he has revealed himself in his creation. He has revealed himself intuitionally and in an innate way that we know he exists, and he has revealed himself through special revelation. Now, the Bible says that those people say, I do not innately know that God exists. I don't believe in God because there's insufficient evidence. That position is indistinguishable from them from suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. Okay?
How would someone who has never been exposed to God, the concept of God, especially not the Christian God, be able to follow your logic now?
I would simply say that I have to decide whose reason is the final authority in reality. Is it God's, or is it individual or collective human beings? It is my worldview that the revelation and reason of God is the final authority. God says every person knows that he exists. Those that deny that are suppressing what God has innately revealed to them.
So in your worldview, if someone were to come to you and say, God has not revealed himself to me, then your worldview would say that he is being dishonest with you.
I would say that mindset was a product of what we would call, in psychology, we would call that a product of what we call self-deception.
Self-deception. So someone who has not been exposed to the Christian God is practicing self-deception by not being exposed to the Christian God.
No. Somebody who denies that they innately know that God exists is self-deceiving themselves when they say, I don't know that God exists. Now, you're asking me, whom shall I, from my worldview, whom should I believe? Should I believe what God says or what Joe Schmo, my neighbor, says?
But the nature of the question you're asking is telling somebody else, you believe, you have an idea of what this is, you are denying it, you are deceiving yourself of what this is. The other person, that's from your point of view, but you are not in the point of view of the person who is revealing this information to you.
Right, so and whose reason is final authority?
But you're not using, God is not telling you that this person is self-deceiving. You are coming to that conclusion.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
We're not doing the infinite regress. Please just address what I'm referring to.
You just told me that God has not revealed that people are self-deceiving themselves.
I'm talking about the specific situation which I've given you. In the conversation you'd have with the said individual.
The Bible says all men know that God exists.
And this person is approaching you saying he does not. God has not revealed himself in such a way.
Right.
If it not be possible, then God would reveal himself at a later date from the point in which he's speaking to you?
I think maybe what you may be thinking of is a deeper understanding or knowledge of God versus a basic innate knowledge of God. The two are not the same. There are different levels of knowledge that we can have for things. For example, Hana, you sound like a smart woman. You know about electronics, right? You're working on a computer right now. You have some knowledge about electronics. But if I start asking you about all the integrated circuits on the motherboard, you're going to say, I don't know about that. But that doesn't mean that you don't have knowledge of electronics. You just don't have a higher level. Now, a person that I may meet on the street may not have certain higher level knowledge of certain attributes and characteristics of the Christian God, but they basically know through the revelation of God innately that the God of creation, that there is a one and true living God who is creating us. And God has put that innately within each one of us, right? And the Bible also says that those people who say that there is no God are practicing a form of self-deception, which is referred to as suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. Now, a skeptic may say to me, well, I'm not doing that. And so, but you see, I'm not going to change my worldview just because this person contradicts God. I find God, the God of the Bible, more trustworthy and reliable than the person on the street.
Right, but by the very necessity of you saying you have knowledge of God based on what was revealed to you in the Bible, well, that's your revelation. You haven't really said how that's been revealed to you other than your reading of the Bible. I'm sure other people would have a different reading of the Bible and disagree with you. That's why there's so many denominations of Christianity and other religions out there. People are interpreting text differently than you are.
Well, the fact that there might be some doctrinal differences does not negate the fact that the Christian God has revealed himself, number one, in creation, number two, innately within our minds and souls, and number three, in and through the Bible. For example, it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Christians don't disagree that God is the creator of the heavens and the earth. Christians may disagree over modes of baptism. Christians may disagree about, do you have to be baptized in order to be saved, or do you have to be circumcised? But when it comes to the basic fundamentals, like, for example, that Jesus Christ is God incarnate, that he died on the cross and rose again from the third day, those aspects of revelation are not in dispute by Christians. Those who do are not Christians.
Are you getting these revelations from somewhere, or is God speaking to you, or are
Yeah,
you reading
it's called the Bible.
So you're getting these from the Bible, and
That's
that
correct.
is what's written in the Bible the final authority?
God has revealed that he has inspired over 40 different authors over many years, using their personalities without dictating to them, to write down the very message without error that he intended to communicate.
But God is not innately telling you that the Bible is true.
How do you
are
know
under the
that?
impression-
How do you know that?
I'm Darwin. I'm having a civil conversation. Don't refer to the infinite regress.
Can we-
No, you just made a
put that on the
propositional
thing.
claim. You said God has not revealed
I'm sorry,
to
your
me
mic cut out.
that the Bible
Your
is
mic
the
cut
Word
out.
of God. Oh, okay.
Darwin, you
You
got your
said,
mic cut out.
okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, you said to me that God has not revealed to me that the Bible is the Word of God. How would you be in a position to know that?
I don't know that. I'm trying to ascertain, how do you know that?
Okay, I cannot tell you the precise mechanism of how he influenced my mind. All right. Just in the same manner, I don't know the specifics and the mechanics of how God created everything within the 6 days of creation. That doesn't mean that it cannot be revealed that he is the creator of heaven and earth. The point I'm just simply trying to make is this: is that if people want to reject the one and true living God, that's fine. But don't think that you can walk away and live in a world that is not absurd and meaningful. Because without the Christian God, there is no truth, there is no falsity, there's nothing. You can't come to conclusions about anything.
Right, but what you're saying is God is the final authority for you. You're making a knowledge claim, right? That God is your final authority, right?
No,
So
I'm saying that God has declared he is the final authority, period. Not for me. He is the
you
final.
understand that to be the case. You understand that to be the case. Darwin's deity, whatever your real name is, you as a person have come to that conclusion, or from whatever your
God
beliefs
has
are.
revealed that in the Bible, that he is the final authority.
But how has he revealed it?
Have you ever read the Bible?
Yes, I've had to. I've been forced to. Yes.
Oh, okay. Does it indicate in the Bible that God created everything and controls everything?
It's indicated, and in Harry Potter there's indication that magic is happening. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Right,
and
and the fact of the matter is, the fact that there is counterfeit money does not logically entail that there is not a real thing. Now, look, here's the problem.
Your mic cut out. Can you repeat what you said?
Hana, if Natt rejects the uniformity of nature, right? If he rejects that this is the underlying foundation of his existence, all right, then everything else that follows is absurdity. It necessarily follows. Do you agree before I move on?
Hold on, let me try to unplug my mic and plug it back in. You're cutting out on me.
All right.
Can you say that again?
Yeah. The analogy is to the uniformity of nature. The uniformity of nature is an analogy to God. The uniformity of nature is not something that can be verified or demonstrated. It is not possible to prove or verify the uniformity of nature. Without embracing the uniformity of nature as the very foundation of our existence, then everything that follows from there is an absurdity, because you can't make any claims to logic, reason, rationality, sense perception, testing, okay? So,
But you're, I'm
do
sorry.
do you understand that before I move on? That without
I-
embracing the uniformity of nature, everything is absurd?
Right, but your idea of uniformity of nature is that which God has revealed it to you. But you
Okay.
haven't.
I'm not talking about that right at the moment. I am simply saying to you, the uniformity of nature is a fundamental bedrock belief that unless you embrace it without verification, then if it is not embraced without verification, then life is totally absurd. There is nothing that is meaningful. Okay?
I understand that point.
Do you agree with that point?
I understand that point. For
I
right
understand.
now,
Do you agree with that?
that uniformity of nature is a thing.
If-
I hold the belief that there is.
Okay, good. But my question is this: if the uniformity of nature is rejected as the foundation and starting point of existence, then everything that follows is absurdity. Do you agree with that?
I don't necessarily agree with that. I haven't heard
Okay.
points.
Okay, good. How could, if the uniformity of nature were not the case, then what we have is not the uniformity of nature. We then have is just randomness.
Right.
Therefore,
I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
yeah, the uniformity of nature would be opposed to the idea of randomness. All right?
Randomness.
Yeah, either you have either all of the events that you and I experience and observe are the product of random coincidences, or the events that we experience and observe are the product of an underlying uniformity of nature. It's either one or the other.
Right. I hold the belief that randomness still is a thing. Randomness still happens, even within the paradigm
Okay,
of
all right,
uniformity of nature.
That's
However,
a different discussion.
Right, that is a different discussion. I don't want
Yeah.
to get into it. That's
Yeah.
outside of what we're talking about.
Randomness refers to things that we do not know about the underlying patterns or causes to. Okay?
Right. But
Now,
back to the
when I
point
say
was making. Oh, sorry.
when I say randomness, I'm not talking about, let's say I roll the dice when you and I are playing Scrabble, and I get double sixes, and it was random because I didn't direct it or the dice were rigged. We're just simply saying is, I don't know all of the physical and physics that were behind rolling the dice. All right. When I say randomness, I'm talking about randomness on the whole. Either our existence is the product of an overall and complete randomness, or our existence is the product of an underlying regularity and uniformity of nature. It's either one or the other. If we accept the uniformity of nature, that it governs our underlying reality, then we can begin to have meaningfulness and rationality about our existence as to why things happen. But if we deny and reject or don't accept the uniformity of nature, then what we are left with is all of the events, big or small, are just simply the product of randomness.
I understand. I understand, but this is severely straying from the point that I was making. So I'd like to try to steer back to that, if you would be so kind as to allow me to.
Well, it wasn't steering away. The point I'm trying to make is, if you reject the uniformity of nature, then you have nothing but absurdity. In the same way, if you reject the Christian God as being the necessary cause and that everything is contingent upon him, including logic and reason, then everything is absurd.
Right, but
People want God to be verified, but they don't want the uniformity of nature to be verified.
I'm not getting trying. There's a reason why I'm not getting into that, because you touched upon this when you're talking to Natt or Nate. I'm sorry, Natt, right? Is it Natt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So you already touched upon it, and I think that's been explored at least somewhat enough. But what I'm trying to understand is, you have made certain claims, and typically when having a discussion, when you make a claim, you have a burden of proof. And I'm asking for that burden of proof. Now, when you say that God has revealed to you that the uniformity of nature is true, or that God is the antithesis of the uniformity of nature, well, could you please show me something that would indicate such?
I'm sorry, I'm having mic problems. Hold on a second. Here,
That's fine.
talk.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Hello,
I gotta get
hello,
it. My wire's a little funky. I didn't hear your last two sentences.
No, it's okay. My mic is acting up too. You made a claim that God is the antithesis, or is the very being behind uniformity of nature, that he is essentially nature or whatever. What I'm asking for is some sort of evidence for that claim.
Verification.
He's asking you, why would you even ask that question when you don't ask about verifying the uniformity of nature? You don't require verification for that.
Right.
Just assume
the concept. Right. Hana.
But Antonio, you have to understand it this way. If you break it down to its basics, what he's saying is, who are you going to believe, me or my lying eyes? Well,
No,
okay, that's fine. I can be under.
No, that's not
what I'm saying. Hana.
Before I'm being interrupted.
Hana, verification. Okay, all right. Look. I'm just going to ask you a couple of quick questions. Okay, verification necessarily presupposes the uniformity of nature, right, Hana?
I agree to a certain degree. Yes.
Okay, it would be absurd for somebody to ask for verification without presupposing the uniformity of nature. So the uniformity of nature is an absolute, complete, necessary precondition for verification. Right?
Okay, continue.
Okay, you believe, you absolutely embrace and accept the uniformity of nature, do you not?
To a degree, yes.
No, you do.
Don't. I'm
it's
answering
not to a
you
degree.
honestly. No,
You
I'm
either
answering you
accept
honestly.
All right. I'm sorry. I know that sounded rude. I didn't mean it to be. I apologize.
That's fine. I'm answering you
Either
honestly.
one accepts the uniformity of nature, or one does not. It's not an incremental thing. Right?
My personal views are contradictory at every left and right turn. So my views are chaotic. No. My personal views are very chaotic in nature. So for me, this isn't a problem. I understand how it's a problem in normal dialectics, which is why I'm saying to a degree.
Do you hold to the law of non-contradiction?
To the most part, yes.
What do you mean the most part? Are there instances where the law of non-contradiction would not hold in your worldview?
There are plenty of contradictions we can find in both nature and things that we don't understand. It can be a contradiction in and of itself.
Good. Okay. Could you give me an example? One thing that is both true and not true in the same sense and in the same way at the same time?
Off the top of my head, I would not.
Okay, well, in fact, nobody can. What you're referring to are what we would call paradoxes.
Yes, there are examples.
No, there are not examples. There are examples of what we call paradoxes. These are seemingly contradictory events, but are not in actuality contradictory events. Okay? Now, if you do not affirm the law of non-contradiction, then that means that some contradictions are possible.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm talking actual contradictions. We're not talking about a conceptualization or an idea of a contradiction, right? We're talking actuality. Now, if you are open to the idea that the law of non-contradiction is not universal and invariant, then there would be no point for me to listen to anything that you say, because at any one time where you are employing the law of non-contradiction, either knowingly or unknowingly, it may be the case that a contradiction actually holds.
Right, but the same would hold in the reverse. I don't have to take anything that you say into account, even if you were to follow it, because of my own chaotic viewpoints. But I'm choosing to follow that law for the dialectical purposes.
I don't think you're understanding this. If you do not embrace the law of non-contradiction, then all rationality eviscerates.
Right.
The bedrock of all logic and reason is the law of non-contradiction. Deny the law of non-contradiction, and all bets are off. In other words, you couldn't employ saying, well, this is right or wrong, because you have to use the law of non-contradiction.
You can have exceptions to things, though. It can be true in almost every case except a few.
No, because here's Natt, here's the problem. Here's the problem.
Is there an exception that you can have an exception to things?
Okay, Natt.
You
If
can have
you
an exception to the exception to the exception to the exception. That kind of thing can happen.
Natt,
I just
here's
recognize
the problem.
possibility.
Natt, here's the problem. Either the law, the reason why it's called a law is because the principle of non-contradiction is absolute, and it is considered to be absolute and universal. It's invariant. It means there's no exceptions to it. That A cannot equal not A in any instance. If you, Natt, concede in a conversation that the law of non-contradiction does not hold universally and absolutely, then you're not going to be in a position to actually know when contradictions actually hold and when they don't, because you're going to be limited just to your observational experiences.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Could you define it? Because when I looked it up, I got kind of a different definition of what you were saying.
All right. The law of identity is A equals A. Something is what it is. It is self-identical. Then there's the law of non-contradiction. The law of non-contradiction is A cannot equal not A.
Okay.
Okay. Then there's the law of excluded middle. The law of excluded middle is something is either A or it's not A. Right? There's no middle ground. That's why it's called the law of excluded middle. Now, when we reason about reality, especially that which is outside of our perception or our experience, we are going to be employing the laws of logic, and especially the law of non-contradiction. I mean, you'll do that within your experience, but you do that outside of your experience. If you do not embrace the law of non-contradiction, that means that it is possible that some contradictions are valid. Since it's outside of your observation, there is no way for you to know whether those contradictions are valid or not. Okay?
Okay,
now,
yeah.
But here's the problem. Here's an even worse problem. You as a skeptic, because you do not hold to the Christian worldview, that the God of the Bible is the essence of the laws of logic. This is what his being is and how his mind operates, and he has constructed a world based upon the laws of logic, the way his mind operates. That is why the laws of logic are universal. Now, if you don't embrace that, then there is no way for you to affirm that the laws of logic are universal. There's absolutely no way you can do it.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, sorry for jumping in there. I just thought I had something to add, but it turns out my definition that I found was not what you're talking about. So yeah, go ahead with the conversation. And HogTie wanted to talk, by the way.
Yeah, go ahead, HogTie.
Actually, initially I hadn't, but then Darwin's, you said that the thing that sort of often makes me scratch my head. The last thing you just said, do you remember sort of the last 15, 20 seconds of what you just said? Let me hopefully fairly summarize it. You're saying that without embracing the Christian worldview, I don't know what you said. There's just no, you have no way. There simply exists no way. So do you want to just repeat it so I don't screw it up?
Yeah. Without the Christian worldview, your worldview is reduced to absurdity.
Well, that's not what you said, and that's a different claim. I want the actual claim.
This is something that I've always said.
No, I know, but that's a different thing. You've always said that too, but specifically that without the Christian worldview, you can't.
No, when I say without the Christian worldview, I'm talking about without the Christian God actually existed. I'm not talking about saying that one has to believe in the Christian God. That's a completely different concept. That's sometimes people misunderstand that. The Christian God has to exist in order for our world not to be absurd.
Okay. Okay. That will do. That claim will do. Can you argue to that? Is there any support for that claim?
Yeah, it's the same type of argument without accepting the uniformity of nature. Your world is reduced to absurdity.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you argue? I assume you accept the uniformity of nature, HogTie?
No, go ahead with your.
Okay,
I'm
I'm answering you by asking you a question. I'm trying to get to a point here. You affirm the uniformity of nature, like we all do, right?
Okay, let's say I'm a mental patient and I don't. Who cares? Just honestly.
No, you're not a mental patient, and you're a smart guy, and I'm trying to respond to you like an adult here.
Okay, well then, yeah, go ahead.
Since you don't want to answer, I'll just presume. Since you don't want to answer, HogTie. Could you repeat your last statement again about demonstrating the Christian God? What was the
no, I didn't say about demonstrating the Christian God. What I want is, okay, so there's a specific claim.
Repeat the question again.
Okay,
yeah.
There's a specific claim that you put forward, and without getting bogged down in the jargon of it, I just want to, let's put in a placeholder. Let's call it X. Whether X is the uniformity of nature or the logical verities being reliable, any of these things that are sort of essential for reasoning. Just call it that thing X. Is you often, and that X can be any number of things. About those things, you quite often make the claim that without the Christian God existing, then this X couldn't exist. Whether X is, let's say rationality or the uniformity of nature or the laws of logic or logical verities. And I'm saying, can you prove that claim? That with either the claim with God, no, let's stick with the one you made. Without God, these things couldn't exist.
I'm trying to think of how to correctly answer this. One would prove that the Christian God is absolutely necessary in his existence in order to be in a non-absurd world in exactly the same way that you and I embrace the uniformity of nature and the laws of logic. The laws of logic and the uniformity of nature cannot be proven, but they nonetheless must be embraced in order for us to make rational sense of our world. Deny the uniformity of nature and the laws of logic, and your world has fallen into the abyss of absurdity. This is something that logically and necessarily follows. The same is true for the Christian God. For without the Christian God revealing to us the nature of reality, then there would be no means by which for us to actually determine that it is the case that the uniformity of nature is true and that the laws of logic are in fact absolute and universal.
Okay,
so in the same way, I'll give me 10 more seconds. In the same way, one does not prove or verify the laws of logic and the uniformity of nature, but we recognize it without embracing it, even though it cannot be proven or verified, our world is absurd. The same thing is true about the Christian God. Deny the Christian God as the ultimate origin, then your world is absurd.
Okay, that's helpful because before, remember when I first came in, so I'm not sure how to phrase this question, and asked you to sort of restate what your claim was. And you very helpfully, you did just do that. You just restated the claim. That is, you're saying that God is necessary. Without God, then these other things wouldn't exist. So what you just did was a sort of a helpful restatement of the claim you're making, that is specifically about the necessity of the Christian God for all these things to be the case. So from there, can you prove that to be the case? That is, can you show that without God those things wouldn't exist?
Yeah, it's very simple. It be due to our and by the way, I'm only speaking from within my worldview, not yours. So I wouldn't be guilty of being in the same boat. But speaking from my worldview, if somebody rejects that it is the case that the Christian God exists and has created the world as he has revealed, then there is no means by which one can ascertain the nature of reality. One cannot ascertain that there is a uniformity of nature, and one cannot ascertain that there are the laws of logic.
Okay, again, that was additionally helpful in restating the specific claim. So again, what I'm asking you to do is to prove that claim. Now, what I did hear you do a little differently that time was you said that you clarified, and maybe this to sort of help guide me as to what your answer is. You're not getting
this. You're asking me to prove the necessary precondition. That's like saying, HogTie, can you prove the uniformity of nature?
Well, no, that's it. No, it's a completely different requirement, because the statement you're arguing.
HogTie, is the uniformity of nature the necessary precondition for rationality?
I don't know if that's the case or not.
But what? You don't know whether the uniformity of nature.
No, I'm just not addressing it. I'm not letting you turn this into, because the thing is, I'm totally available. It's turned into a shouting fest. Okay.
No, you have a double standard. You want me to prove.
No, I want you to answer questions, and if you want to ask me questions, I'm totally available to answer questions.
Prove the uniformity of nature, and you don't want that proven. Why the double standard, HogTie?
No, because I'm trying to ask you a very specific question. There's a claim that you make in the things that you've been saying, and that is specifically about, I'm going to call it the necessity claim, just for brevity, so I don't have to repeat it every time. And hopefully that's clear. If you don't want me, I can repeat it. But you make this thing I'll call the necessity claim, and I'm saying, well, can you prove that to be the case? And if you can't, and you want to evade that, and then you ask me a bunch of questions. I'm totally available for you to ask me any questions about my view, or try to get me to explain things. I can do that, but I don't want to let that interrupt my opportunity to ask you. And can I just paraphrase back what I think you're saying, because this actually makes a lot more sense to me. Because the second time you answered the question, again, you restated the claim, but you also clarified that you're answering it from within your own worldview. And I think you're describing it as something that is the necessity claim, being something that's basal or foundational, and therefore wouldn't bear the requirement of proving it. I think maybe this is why you're asking me this other question, because I mean, it sounds to me like how I would react if somebody said, well, can you prove that you exist, or can you prove that you're not the only mind in the whole world? And I would have to say, well, that's sort of an operating assumption that I have, and I really wouldn't know how to prove it, but I got to sort of press on with life, not being able to prove that. Well, it's sort of incorporated at the base of my worldview, and I don't know how to justify it because it's basal. Is what you're telling me then that the assumption of God's necessity is basal to your worldview?
No, it's not a basal assumption.
I thought I had it.
It's not a basal assumption. It's not a basal assumption because in my worldview, God has made me to know innately that He exists. The mistake in your reasoning, and a lot of skeptics have, is we hear the skeptics say, prove and verify. Now, either there has to be a stopping point for verification, or you're going to have an infinite regress. Okay?
Yeah.
But you're going to have to have a stopping point or final authority. Now, when skeptics say, "Can you prove or verify this?"
Oh, is he still talking? It sounded like mid-sentence he stopped.
DJ, are you there?
Yeah, you cut out, Darwin. There, man.
Dawkins?
Before he gets back then, I think Hexapod should just really make a point, because he was more or less addressing it to us lay people.
HogTie, can I screen share something? I am. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I'll even click the thing here so I can see you while you speak. Go ahead, please.
It's just that I'm trying to sort of make sense of what I don't think Dawkins is making his case very well. So here is sort of, as far as I understand, I mean, we can have the Christian God exists. That's his claim, right? As far as I understand. Did you guys understand the same thing?
I'm sorry, repeat that. You cut out for me.
So his claim is the Christian God exists.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be either a true or a false statement.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. So I mean, he or rather than claiming that, he seems to have it as a presupposition. And what does that really mean?
That's true.
If we take, but I mean, what does that? So it means he puts himself sort of in this. Oh, sorry. Now I have to. Can you?
I see a blue square.
Let me see. Okay, so you can see while I'm drawing now. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't have to have it on my own. So I mean, he puts himself here somehow. So this is basically Dawkins' deity. This is his presupposition over here.
Right.
Now, does his presupposition in any way change the probability of these two alternatives? Does that even change something?
No.
He doesn't like probability, though. He tries to talk in absolute truth.
But it's still, he's employing the same logic, though.
No,
to
but I
refute
mean,
the logic.
Exactly, but I mean, we know that it's either true or false, that the Christian God exists.
Right. There's no middle ground between that.
So what it doesn't really change the outcome, right? And as you said, HogTie, and me before him, that he assumes that you need, to have certain consequences, you need this outcome, that this is true. And you cannot get these consequences, that is the laws of logic, if this is false. But he hasn't proven this chain here. Isn't that what you're saying as well, HogTie?
Yeah, I'm saying that he's not arguing to, and it might not be necessary that he does argue to it. I mean, I was asking him, can you argue to that claim? That is, the claim that the Christian God is necessary for example, the laws of logic, but then other things. There you are. Now you're back.
Is my mic working?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah, it didn't before. We've now just this moment heard you.
All right. Yeah, Natt, the problem with you invoking probabilities is that you're not in a position to assess the background information. In order to assess probabilities, you have to have access to the background information. And since you only since you're a finite creature, you can only make observations of a small amount of reality. Therefore, any statements that you're making about probabilities outside of your experience is complete conjecture.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't make statements about probabilities that are outside of what.
You can't. Your argument through probability in these types of discussion is, I don't mean any disrespect, is a waste of time. When you ask to prove that God exists, okay, is akin to asking, prove the uniformity of nature. The uniformity of nature cannot be proven.
But
and on the specific issue of probability, I would I don't want us to get hung up on the discussion of probability or sort of whether it applies. I mean, my understanding of probability is sort of an area of math, and you generally, there are a lot of circumstances where you don't have a framework to discuss probabilities. So, for example, if I have a bag full of numbers here and I say, well, what's the probability that that I draw the number 1? Well, if you don't know what's in the bag, it's an undefined. Yes. It's not simply that you don't know, but it's actually an undefined quantity. And this is the problem I have with trying to do some sort of probabilistic analysis about whether or not God exists or something sort of structural about the universe, or simply.
Yeah, when I say probabilities, I don't mean like
exactly
numbered probabilities.
Exactly, and that's why what I hear is like if somebody goes to this kind of an argument and then says, well, is this more likely than that, or what's there's still a probability of this. It's very easy to then get distracted by the word probability. Whereas I think the language of philosophy, like the actual logical reasoning, is sort of a more rigid discourse, which is why I'm asking for, when there's a particular statement like the necessity of God for X to exist, whether it's uniformity or laws of logic or whatever, I'm asking whether or not there's a proof leading to that point. Yeah. And as I said before, there might not necessarily be. It might be the case that within his worldview, it wouldn't create an obligation to to have that proof. In the same way that if somebody asked me to prove that I'm the only mind, sorry, that I'm not the only mind in the universe, it'd be nice if I had that proof, because I could probably write a paper, you know. But given that I don't have it, that doesn't render my worldview utterly crippled.
No.
Can
But-
I ask Darwin's deity a few questions?
Go
Deity,
ahead.
are you there? Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay.
here.
Just so I develop a deeper understanding. So when your understanding of what God has revealed to you, you said was what you took away from the Bible, right?
Well, how else would I be able to know something about God unless He revealed it to me?
No, but I'm saying specifically that's what you gathered from the Bible, right?
Yeah, God has revealed that He has revealed to us in 3 different ways: natural revelation, innate revelation, and finally special revelation, the Bible.
So special revelation is the Bible, innate is something inherent within yourself, and what was the other one I couldn't hear?
Natural revelation.
And natural revelation is what you observe in the natural universe.
The heavens and the earth declare the glory of God.
Okay. So is God in a continuous state of revealing necessary information to you, or once it is revealed, you
Oh,
take it?
do you mean like people who are speaking in tongues? Is God giving me unique and special revelation? No.
Okay. So God's definitely not like he's not telling you.
No, I'm not getting special communications now.
Okay. Okay. So for your reasoning and your logic, was that something that God also revealed to you, or was that something you also picked up from the Bible, or that was innate, or that was
Yeah, when you read, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Although that seems like a simple verse, it's monumentally profound. It has many applications, but one thing that it does mean is that everything that exists that is not God is utterly and completely contingent upon God. That includes all reason and logic, everything. So if it is the case that the Christian God exists, then He is the necessary precondition for rationality and intelligibility. Now, when people say to me, "Please verify to me that God exists. Please prove to me," this is an inconsistency, whether they realize it or not. I know that 99, and I'm conjecturing, people who invoke this are not aware of the inconsistency when they request that, because the very idea of proof presupposes the uniformity of nature. Proof requires the uniformity of nature. No uniformity of nature, then nothing can be proven, right? But the uniformity of nature cannot be proven. So when somebody says to me, prove such and such, they are presuming a state of affairs, namely the uniformity of nature and the laws of logic. Okay, but this underlying foundation of their worldview is the necessary precondition in order to prove things. Now, when somebody says to me, prove God, that is no different than saying, prove the uniformity of nature.
Well, there would only be one case where that, and sorry if I interrupted, Hannah, you had a follow-up?
Go ahead.
That would only be the case if they were, the two things were comparable across the two worldviews. And that was kind of the impression I started to get there, and then unfortunately you lost connection. In that if the thing was just, if the belief is just utterly foundational, like there's just, that's why I used the example of, if I said, well, if you asked me rather to prove that I'm not the only mind in the universe, and I would have to go, I don't know, how would a guy go about doing that? As long as I'm not wrong in that belief, then it doesn't hamper my worldview to not be able to reason to that point. And I would concede it would be the same way in having a Christian worldview, where you say, well, I just know that God exists. I can't reason to belief in God, the truth of God existing. that doesn't cripple your worldview if it is the case that God exists and you happen to be right about it. The fact that you don't have a justification for it doesn't serve to cripple your worldview. And that's what I thought you meant before.
There's no need for a justification for God. God's existence is self-evident, but those who reject that are suppressing that. But even going with that, and that is unacceptable to skeptics to hear that. They don't want to affirm that that's the case. The bottom line is simply this: there are necessary when people are engaging in this discourse, we are presupposing logic and rationality. There are prerequisites to logic and rationality. Okay, those prerequisites. For logic, when somebody says prove to me, they're invoking reasoning and logic. Prove to me such and such. Okay?
Yeah.
There are preconditions for that. Those preconditions cannot be proven.
But we both accept. I mean that's one of those points that you stipulate and move on. We both agree, or everyone here in this room agrees that logic and rationality exist. We accept the logical verities as true, even without support.
No, I don't agree. I don't agree that logic and rationality exists in a worldview where the Christian God doesn't exist. Tell me.
They exist in reality. They exist in reality.
No, I don't. What you see, I don't accept. If I were to abandon the Christian worldview, upon what basis could you demonstrate that there's logic and reason? In a world where there's just molecules in motion, tell me how you would demonstrate logic and reason.
Well, as I just said a moment ago, and actually several times, I don't have an argument to show that logic and reason exist, or that the logical verities are true, or that rationality exists, or that there are other minds in the universe. There's a whole set of beliefs that I have that are very foundational that I don't have a denotative argument leading up to. But then I say, I mean, we agree that these things are real. Don't we agree that in terms of our beliefs about reality, and I'm going to use reality to mean that which is the case. So which of those are you denying then?
No, you're making a mistake. The mistake you're trying to say is, because I agree within my worldview logic and reason exist, and in your worldview you think logic exists, you think that that's tantamount to, well, we both agree that logic and reason exist. No, that's a false conclusion.
No, that's not my reasoning at all.
Okay, I don't agree with you that it can be demonstrated that logic and reason exist given the parameters of your worldview. Go ahead, demonstrate.
Okay, wait, hold on a second. So I said I don't think that logic and reason is something that you can argue up to. I don't think the logical verities are something you can argue up to. And now you're telling me that you don't agree with me that the logical verities are something that can be argued up to. I said, to clarify there, I said I don't think those things can be argued up to. The same thing with solipsism, right? I don't think that you can argue up to a conclusion that you're not the only mind in the world. You're saying you disagree with me about it, and then you said you're attributing to me the exact opposite of what I said, just so you could tell me that you disagree with me about it.
Okay, so can we back up a step? My bad then. Then my response is just simply saying is, given the parameters of your worldview, nothing can be reasoned to.
Well, the parameters of my worldview include that logic and reason, are real things. They exist. They map onto reality. They are the case.
Yeah, those are ideas that are churning around in your head that are the result of molecules in motion, molecules interacting, chemical reactions.
Sure. Yeah. And they exist. So we agree. So first off, can we just get clarification?
No. When you say they exist, you're presupposing. You see, when you say something exists, you're presupposing that your reasoning is reliable. So
yes.
When you say, you see, in your worldview, your brain is just simply chemical reactions taking place.
No, I don't think that's the case.
But you see, in your worldview,
can I ask you a favor, Darwin? Can you set down the crystal ball for a moment, or whatever Ouija board or whatever it is you use to read my mind or tell me what my plan is or what my motivations are and all that stuff? Can you just set that aside? If you want to know something about my worldview or what I'm thinking, you can ask because I'm here. So I want you to go about it that way. I don't believe that the mind is simply fizzy pop or whatever thing you go to there. I do believe that there.
Oh, I know that.
Oh, okay. Oh, good.
I don't doubt that you believe that you have the capacity to reason and exercise logic. I don't doubt that at all.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is what necessarily follows from your worldview is that whatever thoughts that you have, including the fact that you have some level of free will or consciousness or reasoning or whatever, what logically follows from the parameters of your worldview is just those thoughts are just simply a byproduct of antecedent chemical reactions.
Yeah,
you may not believe that, but that's what necessarily follows from your worldview.
I don't believe that. I believe that. Okay.
Okay.
Well, you're again. Okay.
I know you
need to find someone who holds those beliefs that you're trying to argue with that guy. Yeah.
I'm not impugning that you believe that. What I am saying is that it logically and necessarily follows from your worldview, because you see, within your worldview as a skeptic, right? Yep. You cannot posit a non-physical realm, right?
That's not the case.
Okay, so in your worldview, you could only tell me what you experience or what you observe, right?
Also not the case.
How could you demonstrate to me that something other than physicality exists in your worldview?
Well, again, first off, you seem to, like, you're flying about. You refuse to answer the questions that I'm asking of you. Instead, you always got to turn it to get me to explain my worldview.
What question did you want to ask me?
And you do so by telling me what my worldview is, and then asking me to justify
ask away. What's your question?
So for example, something about something that isn't physical. And this is just sort of a quick off the cuff answer to that sort of thing, but I'm sort of connecting that to the idea that that science could never look into the supernatural. Well, of course it can. There are, like, we could look at any, like, we are sensory creatures, and in addition to that, I would say this of two different things. We're sensory creatures, and we also go beyond our senses by using this, the so-called scientific method. Let's not get too far into that, but the point is that we have these tools of investigation, these things that go in through our senses, plus we communicate with each other about our findings. And it evidently doesn't really give us direct insight into what goes on into a realm beyond our own physical universe. Now, there may be two realms or more beyond our physical universe. There may be a cosmos outside of our physical universe that is itself a physical thing, but we don't have any access to that. Even beyond that,
what might be. I'm not interested in
even beyond that, there might also be a supernatural realm.
I'm not interested in that.
That is not. You're not interested in the supernatural.
No, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I'm saying in your worldview. Yeah. Can you demonstrate other than mere physicality?
Okay, you just asked me a completely different question than the one that you asked me to answer.
The point I'm trying to drive at, the reason why I asked the question is because I had said earlier that it logically and necessarily follows that every thought that you have is just simply the result of antecedent chemical reactions. And you said you don't believe that. And I accept that you don't believe that. And that belief that you have is just simply the result of antecedent chemical conditions.
No, I didn't. No, that was not the thing that I was objecting to. Was your claim that I can't posit alternate realities or supernatural worlds or even physical worlds outside.
Right. When I say posit,
any of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, okay. When I use the word posit there, I am saying posit in such a way that you could actually offer evidence for. That's how I was using the term. I perfectly accept that you could posit. There are skeptics who can posit that there is something supernatural. But you see, given the parameters of your worldview, other than you posit it, you really couldn't offer support and belief to it, because your principle as a skeptic is that you require evidence to believe things.
Okay.
And
so,
your evidence that the thoughts in your head are not merely and only the result of antecedent chemical reactions. What is the evidence for that?
For what? Okay, explain to me now. Now, what have you got me justifying? Explain that again.
That your thoughts aren't determined.
Oh, they may very well be. I mean, now you want to talk about determinism and fatalism.
Yeah, well, I'm just
saying.
saying.
Stick with it.
When you reject the laws of logic, your world is plunged into absurdity. When you reject the uniformity,
that may be the case. Can you find someone who rejected the laws of logic and have a discussion with him instead?
Well,
or do you want to talk to me?
There are Hindus. There are Hindus.
Well, then go find one and talk to them.
There are many Hindus who hold that contradictions are perfectly acceptable and all is one.
Oh, okay. Well, that would be an interesting discussion.
But you see, you can't even proffer to me that the laws of logic exist, and I would say, upon what basis do you do so? And even the uniformity of nature. On what basis do you affirm that the uniformity of nature exists?
Okay, is that in dispute? Do we think that, is it one of us that doesn't think that the uniformity of nature exists, or the laws? Let's stick with the laws of logic, please. Which one of the two of us doesn't? In your worldview, how would you determine, verify, or prove that there's a uniformity of nature? Are you listening to another conversation in a
No,
earpiece or something?
I'm listening
You're not
to you.
listening to this one.
It doesn't matter.
By rough count, I think I've said 6 times. Just wait. By rough count, I think about 6 times now, I've said that in my worldview, my understanding, is that the laws of logic are not something you can argue up to. It is not a conclusion that you can draw deductively from a set of premises, because things like the laws of logic being a feature of reality is a Basal assumption.
Well, why isn't God a Basal assumption to you?
Well, that's what I was asking you about, was whether or not for you God was something that a conclusion that you've come to from your inspection of the world, from your experiences, or whether or not God was a Basal assumption. Because if it were the case, and actually we weren't even talking about God, we were talking about the necessity of God for the laws of logic. Because again, this gets back to our point here. You often say that God is necessary for the laws of logic. With no God, there would be no laws of logic. And I'm saying, can you prove that? And I've conceded that there are circumstances where you wouldn't really be sort of held to prove that. If it is a Basal assumption of your worldview that the Christian God is necessary for the laws of logic.
It's not a Basal assumption.
Okay. I'm saying, if it were the case, then I could understand that you wouldn't have an argument leading up to it, in the same way that I don't have an argument leading up to the truth of the laws of logic, or that I'm not the only mind in the universe. So then you said, well, it's not a Basal assumption, so I'm open to, okay, so what's your explanation?
So basically then...
Is the necessity of God, let me ask this question very simply. Sure. Is the necessity of God, that claim, that what I call the necessity claim, is that claim, the necessity of God, something that you can reason to?
Actually, no. It's something that is it is revealed by God. God has revealed that. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Inherent in that statement is that everything that exists that is not God is absolutely and completely contingent upon God. That God is the necessary precondition for everything that exists that is not God.
Okay, so again, I don't want to misrepresent your viewpoint. I'm just trying to come to understand it. Are you saying that because in the Holy Bible, the first line is, in the beginning, God created, etc., right?
Well, that's not the only verse. There are many other verses that could be given. Like, for example, in Christ are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge.
Okay.
So there are many other ones, but that's one that is the first verse in the Bible, and the one that people can readily understand.
It's probably, if I understand you correctly, it's sufficient. But yeah, don't let me misrepresent that to say you're saying it's the only one, because I do think, and I thank you for that correction, because that's an unfair straw man that comes up a lot in these online discussions, where if somebody says, well, can you just give me an example of some sort of evidence for why you believe this particular thing? And the person says, okay, I can give you an example, and they give one example, and then the other person says, well, that example doesn't prove evolution or whatever else that, and you go, well, you asked me for an example, you didn't ask me for a comprehensive encyclopedic proof. So I accept that correction, that you're certainly not, I understand now, you're not saying that it's simply the first two verses of the Bible that make that case, but rather, really, it's the Bible in its entirety, and you can point to very specific parts of the Bible that make the case quite plainly that God is necessary for the universe. Is that your claim?
Yeah.
Okay.
There are numerous biblical passages that teach directly and indirectly that everything that exists that is not God is utterly and completely contingent upon God.
Okay. Well, then
when I say that the God of the Bible is the absolute and necessary precondition for rationality and reason and logic, I'm simply stating what the Bible states itself.
Okay, and then I accept that. I mean, what you're telling me is, so again, of the specific claim, the necessity claim, when I say, well, what brings you to this belief, and really by rights, what should bring me to that belief? You're saying you get it from the Bible. It's quite plainly stated there in the Bible, and I'm going to agree with you. In fact, I would strain to think of an interpretation of the Bible that isn't like wildly eisegetical, where you wouldn't draw that inference. I think it's pretty plain from the text that God is necessary. God is not merely an add-on to, well, here's the world, and then
it's not belief in God that is the necessary precondition.
No, I know. That God.
I'm not suggesting. I
got that. Don't argue with points I'm not making. I think we're both agreeing here is that what the Bible says is that God is necessary, right? Were there no God, there would be no world, no Bible, no jeopardy, no salvation, all that stuff. It just would, according to the Bible, it just wouldn't be. Well, what wouldn't be? Well, you name it. It wouldn't be without God.
Well, even from a biblical worldview, that's not even possible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You actually, how could you even discuss a world without God if you're looking at it strictly from the biblical worldview?
Because God is necessary being. Therefore, God would exist in all possible worlds.
I accept that then, and I think that sort of answers the question I was asking you before, and maybe just maybe for brevity, a person could just say when asked like that, just say, well, look, that's what the Bible says. Like when I ask you, how do you prove this necessity claim? Because that is a pillar, an important plank in your argument. You say, well, that's a component of my worldview because that's what the Bible plainly says. If you want to argue about that, if that's what the Bible says, you're going to lose because that's what the Bible says. But you could just tell people, I believe that because that's what the Bible says.
Yeah, Bible. Here's another verse where it says, he upholds everything by the power of his word. Everything.
Yeah.
At every moment. If it were not for his will to uphold the existence, everything would cease to exist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people go, oh, you're a presuppers. This is what is absolutely inherent in actual biblical theology, whether somebody sees it or not. Deny the Christian God, and then you can reason for nothing. It never ceases to amuse me. You've been far more intellectually honest about the nature of the laws of logic and the uniformity of nature. I think that, and I'm not trying to suck up to you. I think it's because you have a greater intelligence and education. But it never ceases to amaze me how many times I hear people on here, and even people who are college educated, saying, "Yeah, we can observe the uniformity of nature." It's like, really?
Yeah. Well, something, Darwin, and I'll say this off air because again, I think once we got to that point, I get okay. So I see the source to the Bible, and it's not even worth arguing over because it is what the Bible says, and I'll also to a large extent sort of defer to your reading of it too, but because it's your reading of it that informs your worldview. But I'm going to say I have to. I don't want to get into a big argument about this, but just I'm sort of saying this because we've sort of successfully.
I have to go in a few minutes anyway.
Okay, I do. I do get a little frustrated with the reputation I get that comes clearly from hatred or contempt to the questions I ask or the type of approach I have in Hangouts, because I get it. I get when a lot of times these online discussions, like just now when you were saying that people come into a Hangout, like sometimes you swear they come in just to disagree. Just you could say anything, and your dogs have 4 legs, and they're gonna go, no, that's not true. All dogs have 8 legs. Like you just swear that the next person is just gonna say the opposite of what you just said, just for the sake of disagreeing. And my frustration is I'm not that guy. I come into these conversations, I approach them honestly, and to twice now have an on-air discussion with you when I know what I'm going to say. I have a point when I start talking, and to have you explosively just chastise and get angry with me, and then after I leave, say the shit that you said about me after I left. Don't now, after having a discussion with me, pretend to have any respect for me or love or anything other than hatred and contempt. Is that a fair point to make?
My respect for people on Google Plus ebbs and flows depending on the moment. Unless of course somebody is a chronic troll, and I don't think that that's the case with you.
I think you can go ahead and add me to your troll list if you define troll the way I think you do. But I'll tell you something. I find frustrating.
Listen.
Being in a room with someone. Hold on a second. Let me make this point real quick. You've got Antonio here, a brother in Christ, and I can tell you, I've heard. I don't know how well you know him, but I've heard him speak an awful lot about issues both related to faith and also social issues. And I can tell you, you would have no cause to question the sincerity of his faith or his ability to sort of read people and try to be fair to people. A Christian, a person might want to call it that. And when he's in the room telling you, hey, settle down, HogTie's just trying to make his point, and then you can address it. And you're going to brush him aside because you know, well, here's a non-believer with a big mouth. And then you wait for the moment I'm out of the room to say the type of crap you said after I left. It's like I say, don't go ahead and
I didn't say anything behind your back that I've said to your face.
That's not the point. Why do you have to say that stuff at all?
Because that was my assessment.
Yeah, well.
But what I do disagree with you is there are times that we've had butted heads and times we've had civil conversations, but I certainly would not put you in the class of the people that I identified as trolls. I mean, they're trolls. It's self-evident. It's obvious what they are. You're not in that category. Just because I have from time to time even, let's say, angry disputes with people, that doesn't, in my opinion, make them a troll. It's when people follow me from room to room to room, literally stalk me, and simply interject in conversations that I'm having in multiple other rooms, simply to disrupt my ability to actually have conversations with people. And a number of these people that I have identified as trolls actually admitted this. So you're not in that category.
Well, I'm familiar with your struggles with some of those people, and I've seen people who don't follow you from room to room. Still, in the occasional interaction with you, it gets explosive and sort of off topic and highly personalized.
That doesn't mean that's all.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I don't fit in that category.
No,
and
you're
I mean,
not.
you and I don't have much of a history. We had one on-air hangout on MK's channel that lasted about 4 minutes, and you booted me. Much to the scolding of everyone else in the room, who told you, your brothers in Christ told you, come on, like, I know you have problems with some people online, but this is not the guy you have a problem with. And then, I mean, I always have trouble in True Empiricism's room because he's got like a real personal issue with me. We sort of have a on again, off again friendship, I guess I'll call it.
Hey, HogTie, I've been booted so many times. On Pal Talk and Google Plus, I don't let it bother me.
I don't let it bother me either. I'm just making the point that, like, I mean, what you did tonight, like, I have a rare opportunity, and I got to get, when I'm in Ronnie's room, I got to get my point out quick because, especially when there's lots of people in there. And for you to come in and just constantly interrupt and whine and bitch.
Who's Ronnie's room?
This one, True Empiricism.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, you got a way of like, when you need to interrupt somebody, you can't just say, as most people do, you'll kind of go, well then, and then the person says, well, just let me finish. Then let him finish. People know how to take the cue that, like, it's time to wrap up. But you just start.
I'm not very patient when I have people who filibuster.
Well, you don't listen. Would you be able to tell me right now what my point was? The thing that you claim I was filibustering. Do you know what the point was?
You kept on repeating, and I do have to go in a minute. But
Repeating what? Repeating what? You said I repeated it 11 times. What was it?
Yeah, you repeated 11 times that just because we don't know the mechanism doesn't mean that we can surmise that a certain phenomenon has taken place.
Doesn't mean you can't, yeah. And specifically that it's evasive if you say, well, we don't want to discuss the evidence. So instead we're going to ask a different question about the mechanism.
It's very late for me. I'm very tired. I'll be glad to continue the conversation, but I do have to go. I'm not trying to blow you off, okay?
All right.
Have a good one, Dawkins.
All right. And I'm sure we'll have more civil conversations. I think we both have to keep our tempers in check. I just have a short fuse for some people that filibuster, such as Hex. You know, when they go on and on and on lecturing like it's a 6th grade science class, like we don't know many of these concepts.
I'm gonna go ahead and take off too. I'll give a few people my control. I guess I'll give Steve Brown my control, and then I'll give HogTie.
Might not be around that long, so give it to somebody else too.
A couple of comments. Dawkins, we have never spoken before. You are mistaking me for somebody else.
Actually, we have. I have a number of different nicks.
Okay, but I have. And which other nickname did you use then, if I may ask?
I've got about 10 different nicks that I use.
And under which nickname did we communicate?
You know what? I didn't keep a log. Do you know how many people I interact with?
Well, I haven't been on that many Hangouts, so the chances are fairly small.
It's not an issue that I want to haggle about it.
No. So you can't have interacted very much with me in any case.
You hear my dog in the background?
It probably wants to go out, but my second comment would be that you should focus more on your own arguments instead of trying to sort of characterize your opponents. You would really win a lot on
yeah. Well, when people make positive propositional claims about certain things, then it's incumbent upon them to defend that. And you made a number of positive propositional claims, and you didn't support many of your claims.
I have defended every one of them.
I know you thought you did. What you did do is you lectured about certain claims, but you didn't actually support it.
No,
I'm not going to rehash the conversation. No, I know what I heard. I'm fairly. In fact, I'm one of the more well-educated people on the theory of evolution and these geological issues. I'm not just some schlub. I know exactly what you're talking about. I know you think you supported it well. I mean, it was good rhetoric for a 6th grade science class. But
the rhetoric was all on your side.
It was not actually hard support for utilitarianism. Okay, all you were simply doing was asserting.
The first thing I asked for was
I have to go.
The foundational aspect of science, and you could not even provide that. Bye bye. Good riddance.
Piece of work.
Well,
what a guy.
Well, just for the record, just shortly after you took off HogTie, I basically gave my position that I honestly didn't feel like you were filibustering. I had a few questions about when I was asking you about how will we, if we're going about this whole subject of evolution the wrong way, or if we're asking the wrong questions, I was just simply asking you how will we go about it the right way, and I think you need to take a bit of time to explain your position, and I didn't feel like that was filibustering at all, so I don't really know.
And I heard you say that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. Yeah, that's all.
I heard you say that, and I got to say I respected that single observation more than anything I've respected in a Hangout for a very long time. I really want to say I appreciate it. Again, not so much because it was like, oh, you're standing up for me, but it was because you're being honest, and I just went like, that's the kind of thing we need more of. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I think your read was correct. I mean, part of what's really frustrating is when you're in a live chat with people, you're doing a Hangout, and you make a point, and it's a hard point to make. It's got like You got to have A, B, C, and D, and then now that I've said A, B, C, and D, now do you see how I'm reasoning to E? And you'll make the point, and then later when somebody questions you about something, and then you sort of quickly say, well, remember we had C and D, and that's how we reason to E. Well, you're just sort of recapping really quickly, but Darwin